Transoxania is the land situated north of the Oxus River and south of the Jaxartes. It is the birthplace of one of the most successful and infamous conquerors ever to have lived. Born into an unimportant tribe in an obscure corner of the world with little prospects or connections, a young Timur turned to a life of petty crime, stealing cattle and sheep whenever he could. During one such attempted theft, he was shot in the hand and leg by an attentive shepherd. These injuries would never fully heal. He would carry them for the rest of his life, giving him the nickname Timur the Lame, or Tamerlane as he is known in the West. The Mongol successors of Genghis Khan had dominated much of Eurasia in the century preceding his rise to power. With the exception of the Golden Horde, these great Mongol powers became increasingly dominated by their own subjects. In the 1330s, the Ilkhanate, with its heavily urbanized population, was severely ravaged by the Black Death, with the Il Khan and his sons being killed by the plague, which led to the rapid disintegration of the Ilkhanate into various small petty states. In the Chagatai Khanate, power passed to localized chieftains of largely Turkic or mixed Turco-Mongol descent, with the Chagatai Khan taking on an increasingly diminished role. As order increasingly gave way to chaos, plague, and anarchy, Timur began his ascent to power. With only 7 followers and 4 horses at his command, he successfully played off the tribal chiefs of Transoxania against each other for his own benefit, serving as a mercenary commander. When Tughlaq Khan of the Chagatai invaded Transoxania to restore order, Timur switched sides and supported the invading Khan. Initially rewarded with the governance of Transoxania, Timur fled to what is now Afghanistan, when the Khan replaced him with his son. Although illiterate, Tamerlane was fluent in Persian, Mongolian, and Turkic languages, which he used to great effect in gathering all manner of malcontents to his cause. With a small but highly motivated nomadic force loyal to him, he successfully conquered Transoxania, and after having his brother-in-law murdered, he became the sole ruler there. A year later, in 1370, Tamerlane took the Arabic title Emir, meaning commander, lacking the prestige to take the title Khan or Caliph, which were associated with the descendants of Genghis Khan and Muhammad. Since Timur was not a descendant of Genghis Khan, he found one and installed him as a puppet Khan with no real power. Over the next decade, he consolidated his rule over Central Asia. After accomplishing this, he then turned south, taking Khwarezm in Afghanistan in the late 1370s. He then moved west, easily sweeping aside the myriad of tiny emirates that had been squabbling over the ruins of the Ilkhanate. Throughout the 1380s, all resistance was brutally crushed. Many cities with formidable defenses surrendered without a fight, fearing being subjected to the sadistic slaughter that Tamerlane had become infamous for inflicting, such as mass beheading, burning, or burying alive of a city's population. In the early 1390s, Timur conquered Mesopotamia and Baghdad, the former capital of the Islamic world. Year after year, he continued to push westward, his only respite being the occasional campaign against the Golden Horde, who had raided the north of his realm. He installed Toktemish, a Khan he believed would be loyal to him, as head of the Golden Horde. From Egypt to Anatolia, a frenzied panic consumed the populace and its leaders. As Tamerlane ravaged what is now Syria, Toktemish betrayed him and the Golden Horde invaded yet again. This time, Tamerlane moved north with overwhelming force. His army of 100,000 indiscriminately destroyed towns, villages, and cities. Toktemish was deposed by his own people after Tamerlane won a string of decisive victories during his 2-year campaign. Tamerlane had no desire to rule over the arid northwestern steppelands, but only to secure his northern border, which he did. The devastated Golden Horde would never recover, and would diminish and fragment soon after. Timur then began to receive reports of internal instability in what was arguably the wealthiest empire on the planet at the time, the Delhi Sultanate. Taking advantage of this, he then carried out one of the greatest feats of pure destruction and accumulation of plunder in world history. In 1398, he crossed the Indus River and attacked the Delhi Sultanate without warning. Confronted with the Sultan's formidable force of elephants clad in chainmail with poison-tipped tusks, Tamerlane countered with charging camels carrying piles of wood and burning hay on their backs. The flaming, screaming camels caused the elephants to panic and disperse in all directions. Tamerlane slaughtered many hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians during the campaign, killing 100,000 prisoners in a single instance. In less than 3 months, Timur captured Delhi and departed back to Samarkand, his army laden with the treasure of India, leaving the land in chaos and destruction. In Tamerlane's conquests, he routinely slaughtered the entire civilian population of a city, although he did spare scholars, engineers, and artisans, taking them back to beautify his capital city. Timur had declared that his campaign in India was a holy war, calling himself the Sword of Islam. But seen as his victims, from Anatolia to beyond the Indus River, were nearly all Muslims. The more appropriate description that became associated with him became the Prince of Destruction. The wrath of Tamerlane turned west yet again. Baghdad led Mesopotamia's cities in revolt, and as you might expect by this point, this ended with the city's population being massacred. To the west of Timur's empire lay the Egyptian Mamluk Sultanate and the rapidly growing Ottoman Empire. Its sultan, Bayezid, known as the Thunderbolt, had been besieging the surrounded city of Constantinople for 8 years. Bayezid also spent years exchanging letters with Timur, typically insulting each other's manliness. This likely contributed to Timur launching a full-scale invasion into Anatolia instead of Egypt, whom he was also at war with. And ultimately, the Battle of Ankara, where two massive armies clashed, with heavy casualties on either side, and ended with the defeat and capture of Bayezid, who died while in captivity. Timur's ambitions only increased with his age. The next target on his hit list was Ming China, who had driven out their Mongol overlords. Likely in his 70s, he set out on campaign to outdo Genghis Khan, connecting Anatolia to China. He planned for the remnants of the Chagatai Khanate and Mongols of the Eastern Steppe to join him in this campaign. That would be the crowning achievement of his life. It would not come to pass, as he fell victim to the common cold before crossing the Chinese border. The splendor and the horror of his life had come to an end. He was the last great nomadic conqueror before the age of gunpowder. During Timur's life, he directly caused the deaths of an estimated 7 to 20 million people, or 5% of the world's population at the time. Following Timur's death in 1405, his family quickly fell into disputes that led to civil war, during which time many of the regional governors in the west gained independence. Tamerlane's son and grandson commanded the loyalty of most of the army. His son, Shahrukh, won the civil war and ruled for more than 40 years, during which time Samarkand became the center of Persian culture, as all the deported scholars, scientists, and artisans of the Iranian plateau had been moved to the city. Many scholars have called this period the Timurid Renaissance. Shahrukh also normalized relations with the Chinese, setting up embassies with them and trading often, and focused more on maintaining his fragile empire rather than waging wars of conquest. Shahrukh's son, Mirza Muhammad Shahrukh, was an accomplished astronomer, mathematician, and sultan that succeeded his father to the throne and became known as Ulugh Beg, meaning great ruler. Although his reign was short, his accomplishments in astronomy-related mathematics, trigonometry, and spatial geometry have gained him a lasting reputation. His life spent away from politics, focused on science, came at a cost. After putting down one rebellion, civil war erupted again. His son raised an army to depose him, and was victorious. Ulugh Beg decided to surrender rather than continue the war. His son accepted, but within a short time, he ordered that his father be slain while making pilgrimage to Mecca. He then ordered that his brother be killed a few days later. His reign was only 6 months, as he was killed by his cousin, but he did earn the nickname Pater Kush, Father Killer, in the annals of history. The Timurid Empire's demise was slowed by a couple of competent rulers, but was slowly and effectively pushed back on multiple fronts, most notably by the Safavid Persians from the south and the Uzbeks from the north, who conquered the key cities of Herat and Samarkand, ending the great empire that a crippled livestock thief had built over a century before. The Timurid Empire saw the synthesis of Mongol, Persian, Turkic, and Islamic societies. The goals, methods, and ideology of the Mongols were combined with Islamic religion, Turkic language, and Persian bureaucratic structure and culture. This amalgamation would influence the later Safavid Persians, and in the 16th century, one of Tamerlane's descendants would found the Empire of the Great Mughals of India that would have a profound impact on that country for centuries to come. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notifications every time I make more content like this. And if you're not broke, and feeling generous, you can help me out with the cost of continuing to improve these videos over on Patreon. This has been Epimetheus. Thank you so much for watching.